The girl woke up and found that she had traveled to ancient times. There was a group of palace maids kneeling beside her bed. The girl was shocked. She had never seen such a scene since she was a child. She quickly knelt down.
你们快起来，咱们那儿不行这个啊！
When she raised her head, a maid caught her attention. Isn't this her best friend?
小茹，你也来了。
But the maid didn't understand what she was saying at all. Seeing her expression so realistic, the girl realized that she was the only one who traveled through time, so she began to enjoy eating and drinking here. But the good times didn't last long. The next day, the emperor summoned her. The emperor thought she was a celestial maiden. He ordered her to make the country prosperous within one day. Otherwise, she would be beheaded in public. The girl was panicked, but she still pretended to be calm and agreed. That night, she fled overnight, but she ran into a group of soldiers patrolling. She quickly hid, just when her feet slipped and she was about to fall into the pond. A man saved her in time, but the man fell into the pond himself. The girl was in a hurry to escape and didn't thank him.
天呐，这次对不住了，下次有人再会。
我救了你啊！
But the palace was so huge that she got lost. A chief eunuch stopped her. He scolded her not to walk around in the palace, and punished her to chop all the wood. The girl begged him to let her leave. But the next second, the chief eunuch pulled out a long whip from his sleeve. This scared the girl. The girl was furious and wanted to show her noble status.
你这两年我谁吗我可是天女。
Seeing that the chief eunuch didn't recognize her at all, the girl had to chop all the wood obediently. The next morning, she opened her eyes and found that the emperor had come. She hugged the emperor's thigh.
你赶快来了，我对你太久了。
The girl thought the emperor came to save her, but she didn't expect that the emperor was bringing people to arrest her, because according to the agreement, she had to make the country prosperous and strong at noon today. But after the time, nothing happened. Seeing that she didn't keep her promise, the emperor drew his sword in anger and wanted to kill her. A school bag suddenly appeared in the palace. Strange noises kept coming out of it. The emperor was startled. The guards tried to tear it open but found that the school bag was very strong. It seemed that they could only split it with a sword. Just when he was about to do it, a girl suddenly came over to stop him.
This is my 书包。
The girl carefully took the school bag and took out a mobile phone from it. Then she turned off all the alarm clocks. The emperor asked him what this glowing box was.
这就是个手机啊，
你想谋害寡人？
这就是个手机啊。
Then the girl opened her school bag. It was full of snacks. She took out a bag of spicy strips, rubbed them, opened it and started eating. The emperor and the guards were very curious. The girl picked up one and handed it to him. The emperor quickly pulled the guard over and asked him to test the poison on himself. The guard was ready. After preparing himself, he took the spicy strips and took a bite. After chewing a few times, he was impressed by the strange taste.
如何？好吃啊！
So the emperor also took one and put it in his mouth. This opened the door to a new world for the emperor. Even the guards were reluctant to give it to him. Then the girl took out a can of Coke and started drinking it. This made the emperor very greedy, so he asked for a cup to drink. This feeling was simply refreshing to the extreme. Then the girl took out a durian. At this time, the emperor would never eat a bite even if he was starving to death. But the next second he couldn't stop. He even snatched the one in the girl's mouth. The emperor asked her if she had any other good things.
没了，就这么点东西，不能全让你造了呀。
The emperor was immediately disappointed. From then on, those lavish meals could no longer impress him. The girl saw that the emperor had lost his appetite and decided to stimulate his taste buds again. She asked someone to prepare a huge hot pot.
天地乾坤锅，
In this way, the emperor's stomach was firmly locked by the girl.
这也太大了吧！
The girl actually brought hot pot to ancient times. She picked up a piece of meat and dipped it in the soul sauce. The taste was simply amazing. The emperor couldn't help but imitate her and picked up a piece of meat. But when the meat reached his mouth, he began to worry again. The servant next to him saw it and offered to help him test the poison. But the emperor saw that the girl was eating so deliciously. He bravely put the meat into his mouth. At this moment, the emperor suddenly opened the door to a new world. So the two began their own happiness. The girl bet the emperor that he would definitely not be able to eat such spicy food. The emperor was not convinced. He took the girl's chili sauce. His eyes were full of disdain. So he lost himself in the girl's screams. He stuffed the meat directly into his mouth. However, he immediately realized his stupidity. But for the sake of face, he still ate it. The girl also gave the emperor spicy strips and Coke. But the emperor wanted to use her as a target. He held the spicy strips in his mouth and pulled the bow and arrow. But he hesitated. He felt that this was not exciting enough. So he decided to blindfold himself and shoot arrows. The girl was so scared that she dared not move. The emperor turned around and shot an arrow gracefully. and successfully hit the apple. The girl was so scared that she fainted. In order to take revenge on the emperor, she decided to take out her treasure to scare him. The strange sound coming from the earphones scared the emperor so much that he almost went to heaven. This scared the girl herself. The girl wanted to learn archery, so the emperor began to teach her step by step. The arrow hit the bull's eye. The girl happily hugged the emperor. However, after reacting, the girl quickly pretended that nothing happened, and the relationship between the two began to heat up gradually. She even took out modern movies, and they slept together and chatted at night. But the girl fell asleep soon. He gnashed his teeth, farted, and snored. Finally, he put his foot into the emperor's mouth. The emperor woke up immediately. So the emperor planned to wash his good brother's feet, but the guards outside misunderstood them. Soon these words reached the ears of the queen. He vented his anger directly on the girl's maid. Knowing that her maid was bullied, the girl picked up a big spoon and rushed over.
天女不可！我御膳房有刀。
So the girl took the kitchen knife and went to find the queen, but she didn't expect that the queen's minister father was also here. This was too embarrassing.
下回可不带这样式儿的啊！
The ancient little emperor actually took out an Apple phone.
此物它为何不发光了？
Fuju explained that it was because there was no way to charge it here, but the next second she was stunned. The pendant on the phone was gone. She suspected that the little emperor had thrown it away, but the little emperor asked her who the pendant was. This pendant is actually Fuju's idol in modern times. She always regarded it as her most beloved thing. Fuju was anxious in the palace. But in fact, the pendant has always been with the little emperor. The little emperor was guilty and threw the pendant into the flower pot. He reminded Fuju to look carefully and maybe it was in the flower pot. Fuju was impatient at this time. She didn't understand why he kept asking her to find the flower pot. The little emperor could only keep reminding her. But the next second,
花盆呢？
unexpectedly, the flower pot disappeared in the blink of an eye. He hurriedly asked the guard at the door. The guard said it was the eunuch took it away. Then he pointed in a direction.
追他！
So the guards of the entire palace began to intercept. Finally, they stopped the eunuch in a garden. But when the eunuch turned around, the pendant fell into the pool beside him. At this time, the eunuch was terrified because he didn't know what was going on. They didn't expect the little emperor would go into the pool to look for a pendant. After a careful search, he finally found it. Just when the little emperor returned the pendant. Unexpectedly, this scene happened to be seen by the prime minister's daughter Wanqing. The next day, the emperor received a memorial from the prime minister, who forced the young emperor to marry Wanqing. On the same day, Wanqing threatened Fuju to find a way to make the marriage happen. Unexpectedly, what was more troublesome was that the little emperor asked Fuju to find a way to prevent the marriage. This made Fuju feel very helpless. She tested the little emperor and asked what would happen if they got married. The emperor said he would oppose it with his death. Fuju was glad that it had nothing to do with her.
临死前，果然会先杀。
A modern high school student actually started a barbecue in ancient times, but she took out a fire starter but didn't know how to use it. The maid blew it lightly and the straw was easily lit. Fuju was excitedly burning charcoal. At this time, the little prince suddenly appeared.
天女，
Fuju was startled. The small wooden stick with sparks was thrown into the straw pile, but Fuju didn't realize the danger. She invited the little prince to barbecue together. The little prince thought it was interesting and joined them decisively. After a while, the smell of meat wafted. Fuju showed her unique skills and sprinkled fine salt evenly on each skewer of meat, then sprinkled chili powder to supplement directly.
小王爷，给你来一串 ，See you tomorrow。
啊，什么意思啊？
明天见。
Fuju took a bite of baby cabbage. She praised her barbecue skills. Sure enough, charcoal grilling is the most authentic.
天庭的佳肴，果然美味。
At this time, the little emperor was standing in front of the bedroom admiring the night view. The next second, the eunuch came in a hurry. He told the little emperor that there was a fire in the palace and fortunately no one was injured. Only the prime minister's daughter Wanqing fainted due to the smoke while putting out the fire. The queen mother and the little emperor went to visit. Wanqing looked sickly, which made the queen mother feel pity. She asked the little emperor to come and take care of her when he was free. But all this was just Wanqing's trick. In fact, she was not burned. Afterwards, she spent a lot of money to bribe the imperial doctor. The queen mother, who was unaware of the situation, was furious and wanted to punish Fuju. At the critical moment, the maid took the initiative to stand up and take the responsibility of the matter. Unexpectedly, the queen mother ordered her to be executed. Fortunately, the little emperor helped to intercede in time, which saved the maid. But the death penalty can be avoided, but the living crime cannot be escaped. In the end, the maid's butt was in trouble. Just when Fuju was applying the medicine, the little emperor's guards suddenly broke in. The queen invited the goddess to have lunch together, but she only dared to eat the rotten leaves on the side. She also praised it as delicious. In fact, she thought it was very unpalatable. It turned out that they were sworn enemies. Although Wan Qing was the queen, she had a distant relationship with the emperor, and the emperor had a close relationship with the goddess Fuzhu. This made the queen very jealous, so she invited Fuzhu to dinner on the surface, but actually planned a conspiracy.
他不会是想毒死我吧？
Fuzhu was not stupid. She knew that the queen was mean, so she had been alert for a long time. For safety reasons, she did not dare to move her chopsticks. Seeing that she was unwilling to take the bait, Wan Qing took a bite first. The goddess mustered up her courage and picked up her chopsticks to eat a peanut.
呀，这花生米太滑了。
Wan Qing was helpless. She picked up the wine glass and said she wanted to toast Fuzhu. Then she drank it all. Just when Fuzhu was about to drink, Wan Qing actually directed and acted herself and fainted on the ground. Fuzhu then realized that she had really fallen into the trap.
二小姐中毒了，天女毒杀二小姐，快来人呐！
She is indeed a sinister queen. She could even do such a thing. Wan Qing's father, the prime minister, went to the emperor and asked him to seek justice for his daughter. In order not to offend the ruthless prime minister, the emperor had no choice but to put Fuzhu in jail. The young prince learned that Fuzhu was arrested. He hurried to the prime minister and begged him to release Fuzhu. But not long ago, the young prince had a conflict with the prime minister. That day, he broke into the prime minister's room and threw a chicken at him, warned him to stay away from the goddess. But the prince never expected that Fuzhu would fall into the trap. At this time, the prince had to bow to him, but the prime minister actually asked him to kneel down to him. The prince had no choice but to kneel down, but the prime minister didn't seem to be going to let him go. A girl who traveled back to ancient times was eating barbecue in a prison cell. The little prince still has to personally serve her on the side. The prince reminded her to eat less garlic, otherwise it will soon emit a foul odor, but didn't expect her to tell the prince to shut up. And the little prince didn't say anything because he was already infatuated with Fuzhu. When the emperor learned that the prince personally went to the prison to serve the heavenly maiden in order to pursue her, he feels a little uncomfortable in his heart, so he disguised himself as a guard and secretly came to the prison to visit Fuzhu. At this moment, Fuzhu was lying on the bed picking her feet. She is still angry about the emperor imprisoning her. The emperor was about to speak when he heard a strange noise. Then, for some unknown reason, a foul odor came from somewhere. The emperor instantly felt that the smell was a bit overpowering. Just when the emperor planned to come back to see her tomorrow, the guards suddenly announced that the queen had arrived. In order to avoid being discovered by the queen, Fuzhu asked the emperor to hide in the weeds. Didn't think the high and mighty emperor would be reduced to this. The arrogant empress came specifically to see the predicament of Fuzhu. Just as they were talking, Fuzhu couldn't help but fart again. The queen also began to feel a bit dizzy. And at this moment, the emperor was completely unlucky. The queen couldn't bear the smell and had to leave in a hurry. When Fuzhu stood up and looked at the emperor under her buttocks, discovered that he was unconscious.
放的这么臭吗？不应该呀。
The first thing Fuzhu did after being released from prison was to seek revenge on the queen. The queen set a trap for her. She pretended to faint after drinking and falsely accused Fuzhu of poisoning her. That's why Fuzhu was sent to prison by the emperor. The queen took advantage of Fuzhu's imprisonment, the maid who bullied Fuzhu. Now she can no longer bear it. She came to the queen's bedroom and slapped her.
你敢打我？从小到大我爹都没有打过我，所以你才欠教育。
Later, Fuzhu hugged her and struggled with her. Finally, Fuzhu disheveled and found the emperor. She wants the emperor to help her get rid of the empress, but the emperor feels that the time has not yet come. He also wants to bribe her with an apple. Fuzhu is very angry.
你这咋没烧干净呢？你趁着年纪也大，干啥事不要这么毛毛躁躁的，这咋吃？
And the emperor, like the prince, didn't say anything. Why does Fuzhu have such great charm? A high school student who traveled back in time was actually dressed up as Harry Potter.
我手里的这个，便是天宫中著名的《哈利波特与魔法石之厄里斯魔镜》。
She had everyone in the palace press their fingerprints on a white cloth. She can find out the real culprit of the royal garden arson case. She didn't expect this to make the palace maids believe it without a doubt. And Fuzhu suspected that Empress Ruan Shang had framed her. Ruan Shang, who felt guilty, was a little scared, because she was worried that the investigation would reveal herself. She turned around and prepared to leave, but she was stopped by Fuzhu's maid, and asked Ruan Qing to leave his fingerprints. The arrogant maid reached out and hit her, but the emperor's guards suddenly appeared. He said everything was the emperor's will. After hearing this, Ruan Qing had no choice but to obediently press her handprint.
那边那个麻瓜，阿瓦达索命！
Fuzhu wants her to reveal her flaws, but Ruan Chang remained calm and composed. At this moment, the excitement has just begun. Fuzhu left her fingerprints in the palace waiting for the murderer. She guessed that the killer would definitely come to steal the fingerprints, but she didn't think it would be the Empress Dowager. The appearance of the Empress Dowager made the murderer also alert. At this moment, a black shadow drifted by. Fuzhu got up to chase after her, but due to exhaustion, she eventually lost track. She only saw a palace maid wearing a blue dress, and there are patterns patterns with patterns on the clothes. She instructed the maid to pay more attention in the future. This made Fuju so angry that she ate a whole roasted chicken and asked the maid how the investigation was going. And the maid concealed some things from her, because Fuju suspects that the Imperial kitchen intentionally set fire to it. She asked the maid to disguise herself as someone in the Imperial dining room to investigate secretly, but his identity was discovered halfway through. The other party threatened her to keep the secret. Originally, the Imperial kitchen would secretly bring unfinished meals to poor people every day, so the maid planned to keep their secret for them. At this moment, Fuju was lying on the table, feeling down and gloomy. The Emperor came forward to comfort him when he saw it. He thinks that Fuju should be more cautious in handling things too hastily, but Fuju didn't appreciate it at all and instead scolded the Emperor severely.
粗鲁，
你才粗呢，你全家都粗鲁。
粗鲁，粗鲁，
你除了粗鲁，还会说别的词儿吗？
甚是粗鲁。
完美。
The emperor was injured and had a high fever that did not subside. The girl who traveled back in time directly took out anti-inflammatory drugs from her backpack. The Empress Dowager, who had never seen such a medicine before, simply did not believe that it could save the emperor's life. No matter how much Fuju begs, the Empress Dowager still ordered someone to drag her out, in order to save the emperor's life. The prince pretended to be sick in front of the palace to attract the guards at the entrance. Fuju took the opportunity to sneak into the room and give the emperor antibiotics to take. The next day, the imperial physician reported to the Empress Dowager. The emperor's fever has subsided and he can wake up at night. The Empress Dowager thought it was the credit of the imperial physician and rewarded him highly. After the emperor's condition improves, Fuju decided to inform the emperor of her identity. She said she's not a heavenly maiden from heaven. She is just an ordinary person from the future. In that era, there were no wars or emperors. The people are all living and working in peace and contentment. The emperor was greatly surprised upon hearing this. The next day, the guards came to report. The prime minister is preparing to raise troops to rebel. The emperor knew that he wanted to kill the heavenly maiden and gain imperial power, recalling the acquaintance with Fuju until getting to know each other. Every day spent made the emperor very happy, but now he is the ruler of a country. But they can't even protect the people they like. So he ordered the prince to escape from the palace with Fuju. In order to lure away the guards guarding the city gate, everyone sacrificed their lives. The grief-stricken Fuju could only watch helplessly. In the end, the two of them successfully escaped. But Fuju thought of those who sacrificed their lives to protect her. She decided not to choose to escape anymore. Faced with Empress Wansheng who came with troops, the emperor was also prepared for death.
在这城楼之上，所有人都会看到是你给寡人倒的毒酒。寡人要你受后人唾骂，遗臭万年。
In order to obtain the charge of Queen's regicide and conspiracy to ascend to the throne, the emperor drank the poison wine that had already been prepared. By the time Fuju arrived, it was already too late. Watching the deceased emperor, Fuju is heartbroken, accompanied by a painful cry. Fuju woke up from a toilet. Turns out all of this was just a dream, but this dream was so realistic. She immediately ran back to the classroom to ask her best friend what the ending of the comic was.
皇帝在城楼上和阮清摊了牌，皇帝喝了毒酒，就没了。
皇帝死了吗？
没了，第一部就写到这儿。
At this moment, the class monitor came over to urge her to submit her homework quickly. She was very surprised to see this familiar figure. Since then, Fuju has devoted herself wholeheartedly to her studies. In the end, she became a seasoned cartoonist. At the same time, she also wrote follow-up for the manga. In her follow-up, the emperor did not die. The young prince has obtained the military power of the prime minister and sent him to jail. However, what Fuju did not expect was, the author of the first manga is her class monitor.
粗鲁。